Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Second hour of the program. Mitch Moss will be back tomorrow. JVT and Mike Palm with you as we get ready for a very muted slate of college basketball. A lot of extra games today in college hoops. What was the spot you were talking about here with Will?
You and I was supposed to play yesterday afternoon. They were supposed to play at Murray State, and there was a storm on campus Saturday, including a lightning strike in the campus. So power has been out. So nobody knew till like game time that the game wasn't going to get played. They moved the game to today, tonight, 6 p.m. local time, 4 o'clock our time, in Nashville, but not at Bridgestone, at the Belmont's home court.
Okay.
So you and I at Murray State, yesterday was 1.5 when the game was about to tip. We're at 2 right now at Circa now that it's on a neutral. Interesting angle by Will, play the under. And then, I guess the gym, they played in the gym once a year, but.
Total didn't really budge. Total before is that when I'm looking at that wrong? Okay, I think I'm looking at that wrong because I'm looking at 135.5 and you and I favored. Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking at here. Okay. Well, all right. Very fascinating spot. Shockingly enough, I don't have much on the added slate, though. Unless you're a big Texas Southern guy.
No.
Okay, all right. 3 games. Duke, Virginia. Let's start here. Duke, a 14-point favorite, total 132. The common thread among some of the handicappers in the college hoops world has been, I've heard today, podcasts, things like that. Will just joined us and talked about it. Virginia team total under. Against this Duke team, a lot of the rationale I've heard too is, hey, look, how many possessions you actually going to get in this game as well? Is that Virginia going to be able to get enough possessions to actually get over a team total of theirs? So we started to see that. But we've also seen the market, as Will mentioned, start to head in the direction of Virginia a little bit. We've also seen this total rise. Yeah. Some spots open 129.5 up to 132. Do you have anything here?
I did not play anything here. I know Virginia is very, very bad, but this game to me where this game could hang around 15, 16, and then you put a lot of subs in late and Virginia gets a backdoor cover. I can't imagine Virginia being competitive early in this game. I think it's one of the reasons Tony Bennett took a sudden retirement. Well, how bad this team is. I mean, they're very ugly. It's not that they really changed their style of offense. They're just less talented, but they still play at a very slow pace. So I have nothing on this game.
Yeah, I think team total would be the way to go. Totally understand it. 362nd in the country in terms of tempo for Virginia, 284th in the country for Duke. So again, to the point of math game, are you going to be able to get enough possessions here to get over that total? If that's going to be the case, again, team total. Duke might be able to name their score if they take it seriously because in terms of Virginia, especially in ACC play, 14th in the ACC in defensive efficiency, 112.6 points in adjusted defensive rating, according to Ken Palm. So would think that Duke, if they take it seriously, would be able to do it. Only question would be, are you a big situational guy? I don't know if you're looking ahead to Illinois if you're Duke.
I think it's the other way around. I think that Illinois is looking more ahead to Duke.
Sure.
They could affect them more in terms of seeding if that's important to them.
Especially the way Illinois has been playing, right? Haven't been able to be consistent. We'll see Illinois on Tuesday against Wisconsin, but maybe that's actually a better angle instead of Duke overlooking a team like Virginia. Now, what'll happen is Duke won't cover, and then we'll come here on the network tomorrow and say, see, Duke was looking ahead. Ultimately, maybe it was just Duke not being able to cover a pretty big number for the most part. Arizona at Baylor. So this is one I do have a bet here. And I actually disagree with the overall premise. I thought Arizona was going to be a small, 1-point favorite here on the road against Baylor. Baylor, of course, pretty beat up at the center position. I think that's going to really matter as you match up here with Arizona. Arizona, too, coming off of 2 really tough situations. I mean, you have to go on the road to take on K-State. K-State had been playing at a top 10 level. At that point, that was their 4th game in 6 contests at home. So K-State had been getting comfortable outside of 2 road games. And you come back home and you get what I believe to be, the best team, second best team in the country. I think behind Auburn because Auburn actually has some offensive versatility to them. But Houston, I think, is great. And then, of course, you control that game for the most part, end up let go in the rope and losing down the stretch. I think this is a pretty good spot to take on a shorthanded front court of Baylor to go out on the road and actually get a win here for Arizona.
So I was really high on Arizona when they went to BYU and won. I thought they were hitting all the critical shots in these games. And yet last Tuesday we faded them at Kansas State because I said it's such a look-ahead spot. You're going to go to Manhattan, Kansas, the middle of nowhere. They don't play there, right? They just joined this league. the middle of nowhere on a Tuesday night. And frankly, they got the ball with 3 minutes left in a tied game. I thought they were going to win the game at that point. They fought their way back from 8 down in the second half. And then on Saturday in the game of the year in the Big 12, they controlled the game for, you could argue, like 32, 33 minutes.
Yep.
They had the lead in that game. So they haven't really played a bad game in either spot. I'm with you here. Baylor struggled. It went to overtime with West Virginia over the weekend. I had TCU catching 13. It was an easy cover at Baylor. I'm on Arizona tonight as well.
Yeah, it smoked in that Houston spot, but I would agree. I was surprised. Maybe we'll see. We see these late moves in college hoops all the time right before tip, so maybe we'll start to see it. But I think I'm looking at my screen right now. One shop just flat. You guys are here at Baylor up to 2 right now in favor of the Bears, so I think the situation dictates that it's Arizona, but we'll see what the market ends up doing here. By the way, total of 151.5. All right, speaking of that K-State team, so is this the true K-State squad? They go to BYU on Saturday. That was one of the college hoops challenge plays for me was BYU -6. It was more situational than anything. Again, you'd play 4 out of 6 at home, 4 out of 6 at home. Then you go to altitude on this swing, BYU and then Utah. That's a tough opponent to play, like-minded opponent in altitude like that for K-State. Now you got to do it again here with just a day off in between to take on Utah. Situationally, I think it's actually kind of tough. I think I'd rather go back with Utah, although I think a lot of situational folks would say big letdown for the Utes after they took out Kansas.
I don't like this Utah team a lot. Is there any advantage that they stayed there and they got adjusted to the elevation for a couple of days? It's not like they're in and out and have to deal with the oxygen issues. I couldn't play this game. To me, it's enticing up to 3 here. On Kansas State. I would not play Utah in this spot. Yeah,
I think you're probably getting used to it. You're getting your legs back. I also think when you talk about I talk about this all the time in the NBA when teams have to do the Utah-Denver swing, like whatever it is. Generally, it's more of like I think people will tend to think it's a slow start. It's actually like a second half fade, right? Because if the altitude's really sapping you, you might want to look to play Utah in the second half. Like sit back and wait and see what happens. Because if you start to get fatigued, generally that starts to manifest later in the game as opposed to early in the game. A good example. Now this is altitude related, but it's fatigue related. Look what happened to Miami Heat right before the break. Right. They have a flu going through their locker room. The fatigue is there. Fourth quarter, 32-8. They absolutely get destroyed. Same thing against Dallas in their next game. Second leg of a back-to-back. They kind of fade in the second half. So I think that's maybe what you're looking for. So I lean toward Utah, but nothing really strong enough. And maybe the situation dictates that you kind of fade here down the stretch. Letdown, if you will. So I wanted to ask you this. We're going to see Duke in action today, obviously, and we're going to get to see Cooper Flagg. But over the weekend, we saw Auburn and Alabama go at it. I want to tie this in to Duke because obviously the two have a connection, which is their 2 best players, Cooper Flagg, John A. Broome, competing for the Wooden Award. Are you on this train that's been kind of chugging along that Broome, despite missing some time, is going to have an opportunity to win this award? Big game over the weekend against Alabama, 19-14-6 on 7-16 shooting. Got a little dinged up, still was pretty good down the stretch, Broome was. You think he can steal this thing away from Flagg?
I think you can't bet Flagg at this point. I think that Broome would be the bet. I'm impressed by his versatility offensively. He can step out and shoot the 3 pretty effectively, and he's got a nice mid-range game.
Yep.
Obviously, you remember when he went down and everybody said, oh, God, the whole season's going to turn on if this kid is out. I lean to Broome, but, I think it's a coin flip right now. I think he's also plays a lot tougher competition. The ACC is horrific, John.
It is.
I said it last year. It's the worst I've ever seen. Now it's worse this year. And the more teams they add, the worse it gets.
Well, because they have bad teams.
They're going to have 3 tournament teams out of that league? You say SEC's getting 14. Well, they have so many. Well, so does the ACC. They're going to get 3. Yep. It's just Flagg hasn't done it against the competition that Broome has to do it night in and night out.
Yeah, I do wonder for this, because right now the prices that you're looking at here for audience, too, for the Wooden Award, Flagg about a $2 favorite, Broome coming back at plus 140. Then you get the long shots that I don't think you're going to. We're going to do the thing where it's like, they should be part of the conversation. Like, all right, cool, we talked about it. What are we going to do? Braden Smith, PJ Haggerty, Mark Sears, all in that range of 150 to 1, 300 to 1, and then 500 to 1, respectively. Sears with an okay game over the weekend against Auburn. I think he was started 1 of 7 or something like that.
The slow start got them behind, though. He kept jacking it up, and he wasn't hitting anything early.
Right, and then he started to hit a couple, and he started to feel it, and then he started like hitting iron again. You're like, come on, man.
How about Oates throwing his players under the bus, though, in the post game?
I didn't see it. What did he say?
On and on about our two 50-year senior captains turn the ball over. That's why we lose games. You would think at this point they would know how to. They would know how.
Really?
For a minute and a half.
Wow.
Calling him out by name over and over again. That's why we lost this game. And we're not going to win unless they start to take care of the ball. It's awful. I mean, it's.
I don't really get that. Like, I get like Mick Cronin looking like he's going to murder his group after like 4 straight losses or whatever it was. Like, you kind of understand that, but right. But this situation where you've played pretty well all year long, and then you just lose one big spot to Auburn, and it's like right under, boys. Here we go. I'm going to back it up too.
Cronin, they've covered every game since. Right. They've covered them all.
I've told Matt that Cronin is like humans' favorite coach because I feel like that's how humans would coach, right?
I
just
said
call
the
them
guy's
all a bunch of pansies.
He's trying to get fired.
Sure.
Because he did it he just kept doing it.
Yep.
He just started screaming at the post game. The first one was the worst, but he kept picking out something. Oh, Iowa had to come here and say in 70-degree weather, we got to fly to D.C. We got to fly. And he's right. They can't win when they get out of the Pacific time zone.
By the way, did you see the end to that UCLA-Indiana game?
Yeah, there was clearly he got the shot off. That's not the sportsbook's fault, though.
No, of course not. But like
that's the NCAA.
You have to understand and for those who didn't see it, and Chris Passero, who's also in the contest on Fridays, tweeted this thing out. But there was a final shot at the buzzer. It's a 4-point game. Indiana, of course, it's right on the number, both side and total. I thought UMass was yelling at me on Friday because like, oh no, he got it off, and like the final score said 72-70 or whatever it was, and then you come back and it's 72-68 in the official final score. Nothing to see here. No review, nothing.
The NHL does the same thing with the shot right at the end. The referees just call it and they don't look because it's a 3-goal game, but it affects the total, affects puck lines and stuff like that. There was a goal in Toronto. The announcer said it's in. They posted the final. It wasn't. And I yet to see a replay of it.
It drives you nuts. Go to VSiN.com, folks. Check out our special $9.99. You can sign up for that small price. Daily best bets, the exclusive betting splits, DraftKings and Circa, and our upcoming March Madness betting guide. You're going to need it as hoop season is officially in full swing now that we are post Super Bowl. We'll get more on college hoops when we come back. I want an update. We had big women's matchups over the weekend. We got to get a futures odd update there. Maybe take a big picture look at some of these regular season odds in college hoops.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Coming up in about an hour and a half, John McKechnie's going to be with us. RotoWire will talk a little bit about the NFL draft as we are getting closer. We're getting rumblings about maybe what's going to happen with the top overall pick. And there will not be a Bo Nix of this year. May or may not have been a little too much time on VSiN primetime spent on Bo Nix' fate. Last season will not happen again, I promise you. There will be no Bo Nix.
Really?
Yeah. I promise. I won't let it happen. But we will talk about some of the other massive talents that will come out, we'll say.
What are your thoughts on Jackson Dart? He seems to be getting a lot of buzz.
Yes.
Right?
That's okay. I don't understand where it's coming from. Like out of nowhere, everybody's plan is to stash Jackson Dart and have him become the quarterback. Every time you talk about, hey, what would you do with this pick? Well, I would draft this player first and then get Jackson Dart. And it's like, okay, every single person I've talked to has had Jackson Dart as like this magical stowaway. He'll be ready to go guy. And my thought is, why will he be available for all these teams in the second round if he's like this surefire draft prospect to be your quarterback? But that is neither here nor there. We can talk a little bit about that coming up in a bit. We'll also have some news because there's rumblings around Stafford and potentially moving on. We'll see if that is the case. But it was a massive weekend of college hoops, both in the men's and women's games. And actually, the weekend, if you will, went all the way back to Thursday as we saw UCLA's 23-game winning streak get snapped on the road against USC. But yesterday, a massive event takes place. Number 7 UConn taking on number 4 South Carolina, Gamecocks at home, and they ran them out of the building. Huskies get the 87-58 win. So I wanted to play this first because I know that there are some futures implications here, but I really like this. Don Staley, head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks. What grade would you give your team after the loss?
Since we're on a higher education campus, F. You know, I mean, it's, you know, this season is a long season, right? You play a team like UConn, like now, you win. It may have some ill effect to the next game. You lose, and it definitely will wake you up. So hopefully it will be the latter, and we can get back going against Arkansas on Thursday.
I would hope it wakes you up. If you're the fourth best team in the country, you take that loss at home. That was insane.
You're the best program in the country for the last 5 years, right? So they had won 70-plus straight at home, the fourth longest winning streak in women's college history. What's interesting about this is I watched a piece on Dawn Staley on Saturday where she talked about to the parents, I love your kids so much that I will let them do something you're not willing to let them do, fail. And I kept thinking about that watching this game. Because as they got down 12, and then it's 17, and then once they got down 24, they never got it under 20. Yeah. Think about that. You were a 7. They bet this game up to 7. We opened at 5. They bet it up to 7.
Really?
Well, UConn had suffered the loss at Tennessee, who's a fringe top 20 team, to be honest with you. And Gino had gone off again, and all of this nonsense. You watch this game. There's this assistant coach on the bench that, at every time there's a timeout, has to put herself in front of Gino and explain to him what's going on or hold him back from screaming. It's I think it's like he's Biden or something. Sure. And it's very strange. Jamel Elliott's her name. It's very strange. But anyhow, I think this is
you think there's a shadow government, a shadow coach at UConn?
I knew Holly Rose said they're going to talk to him after the first quarter. He had they had to guide him. He couldn't. Anyhow, I'm being a little bit facetious, but not that much. I think this was a big seed change game. They did this. Becker's had a very average game. They did it with the freshmen. They did it with Ozzie Fudd. I mean, they played their best game of the year, but it looks like their best game is better than everybody else when you think about winning at South Carolina. Funny how the women do the rankings, though, right? Mm-hmm. So Notre Dame moves up to 1 in the new poll, and they're going to play later today. Texas goes from 3 to 2. UCLA falls from 1 to 3 after losing to UConn. Texas beat LSU. Who was ranked 5th previously at Texas yesterday. They trailed the whole game, played a great fourth quarter. UConn moves up to 5. USC goes and beats UCLA, previously undefeated UCLA. They still 4. Yep. They don't move anywhere.
Still behind UCLA.
It certainly seems more wide open. I think UConn at 4-1 is a really good bet right now. I think their A game at their best. And Texas at 7-1 might be interesting as well because they can defend as well as anybody. Vic, remember, who's their head coach now, took that Mississippi State team to the finals, got beat by Notre Dame, took that program from nowhere, got the big job at Texas. Eventually, he probably is going to get them a national title. I think this South Carolina team, you can draw a line through them.
Really?
And they are the favorites still at 3-1 here at Circa. I think you draw a line through the favorite if you're looking at women's futures. They don't have the Pau was the only one that could make any shots, and it was early. And then what happened to her? They can't play on the perimeter. They're a lane-dominated team, a paint-dominated team, and UConn beat them in the paint with a versatile team. So I would look at UConn at 4-1 and maybe a little bit on Texas at 7-1. I know those two LA schools are very good. And UCLA obviously put their name on the map with that victory. They were getting beat by Michigan State in the fourth quarter yesterday. And USC, that was at Pauley. And USC trailed at Washington as the 17-point favorite in the fourth quarter there as well before eking out that game. So I think there's some opportunities to bet this women's futures market.
I mean, I thought the thing that bothered me when I was watching, and again, I do not, whatever, I don't have a depth of knowledge when it comes to women's sports. But watching that UCLA game, I think what obviously bothers you is you have Juju Watkins needing to play nearly 40 minutes and score 38 of your 71 points while you're really getting no contributions from anybody else in a spot like that. Is that sustainable for you when you're talking about big picture here for a team like the Trojans making the run through a tournament setting like that?
Yeah, it wasn't last year when they ran into UConn, right? And I don't think it will be this year. When they get to that Elite Eight level, I think it's going to be a struggle when they play any of these teams. Notre Dame, I don't think this is their best version. Obviously, Muffet retired. They assume number 1. They're 5-1. I know Hannah Hidalgo's terrific. I'm not sure they're at the level of the top 3 or 4 teams, though.
You bet a lot of women's hoops
I do. Yeah. I bet women's hoops for many years. Many years. There was times when it wasn't really that much available. I was betting women's hoops.
Well, it's obviously the popularity is really growing, and it's a pretty solid
I'm telling you, 10 years ago, you didn't get it until the tournament started. You really didn't even, and it wasn't on TV as much as it is now. But it's a compelling product. In the collegiate level, I know Caitlin was the big draw, but she got people's eyes on it that continued to come back and watch.
Well, and now they have them, right? Paige Beckers, you're talking about, Juju Watkins, all these notable names that are going to come up now, and we'll see who takes the mantle afterward. But these are names that you recognize. Watkins still has some time left, too. She's going to be, how much longer does she have?
He's a sophomore.
Right? Yeah, she's only a sophomore. $1.80, by the way, Watkins to win the Wooden Award in women's sports. Seems like a fair price given everything that we have seen.
Because everybody else plays as a team, right? They have 3 or 4, they're her.
So let me ask you one last question about this. NCAA tournament-wise, I would assume in women's sports still very chalky. Like when you're talking about the investing in some of these futures, I think people would hear like, what do you mean 4-1? Why do I invest in that now? But that's the way these things generally play out in women's sports, right?
There's really a handful of teams that can win it, right? Even when you say Elite 8, there's going to be 3 or 4 teams in the Elite 8 that cannot win the title.
Sure.
When it gets to that level.
All right. I'm going to add it. I'm down with this. All right. Before we get to back to what we're going to talk about when it comes to the college basketball slate with the men, remember, you can get a new user bonus over at First Bet. Get a $200 sign-up bonus. When you sign up, use a promo code VSIN200 over at First Bet. You sign up now, and you can get a $200 bonus with the code VSIN200. Score a 20% rebate on your wagers on the first 60 days up to $200. Don't miss out. Bet smarter today. First Bet, #1stbet.com. Promo code is VSIN200. Men's-wise, I was going to ask you, and we can maybe expand on this a little bit later, but as we look at some of these regular season titles and what's going to come down to some of these conferences, we talk about big results when it comes to the bubble and maybe some 1 seeds. We also had some big results in terms of these conference tournament races. For example, like Houston really separating themselves now with the big win over Arizona, now minus 650 to win the Big 12, or Duke, despite the loss to Clemson, now obviously still in the driver's seat, minus 900. But the Big 12 I thought was going to get a little bit more gritty, but at the end of the day, Houston well in the driver's seat. After all of the noise in the Big 12, still the Cougars.
The Big 10 is really interesting, right? That's probably the best market to try to delve into here, because there's still probably 4 teams that can win it. When I look at our book, though, most people bet to win the tournament as a future. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of action on regular season. It's sort of a niche market.
Yeah, Michigan minus 150 right now to win the Big Ten. Michigan State plus 330. Purdue 7-1. Wisconsin 10-1. Maryland 15, and then UCLA all the way down to the bottom at 65. But actually, I'll tell you what. After watching the slate that Michigan went through, when you're talking about the 2 overtime games, lost to Minnesota, barely beating Northwestern, and then getting smacked by Purdue, if you're going to tell me at one point they were still going to be an odds-on favorite to win that thing, because it looked pretty bleak for Michigan, but still in the driver's seat as Michigan State is going through a little bit of a swoon now at this point.
Yeah, I thought Michigan State was probably the best team, and you can never count out Purdue. I did give Mitch a ticket for Christmas on Maryland at 10-1. They've had some steps along. They're probably not going to win it here, but they could be a dangerous team come tournament time.
I still think Michigan can be too. I like front court versatility. Yeah. When you got a big guy that's as traditional as Golden, and then of course you got Wolf that can spread the floor. Like, the versatility is great, and I think it works in a tournament setting, but can't start turning the ball over the way that they do. When we come back, news in the National Football League. Execs have spoken. They think the Titans are going to do this with the first overall selection, and some noise around Matthew Stafford. Where does he end up? We'll talk about that when we return.
This is Follow the Money on VSIN.
I like getting filled in on all the lore of women's hoops. I had no idea about the Hannah Hidalgo saga with her nose, and I'm watching old video clips now of the matchup with Oregon State, where they looked like they're performing surgery on her nose on the side of the Sweet 16 game. And it finally hit. No, that's crazy. All right. I'm in, by the way. I'm in women's hoops. Now I have more bandwidth. There's less going on. You know what I mean? So let's start to follow
move
this.
Move that NBA to the back burner, John. We get with...
I can still fit that in here, but we got a couple of days. You can catch up. Big Hornets Lakers matchup, the only game on Wednesday. Really got to watch. Lakers don't get enough pub, so really got to get them front and center for everybody to see them. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, well, it'd be for Connect going back there,
right? The big matchup.
Send it down.
Well, I mean, I keep making the case because humans keep saying, well, it's got to be awkward. I keep making the case if I'm the Lakers, I'm spinning it going, buddy, you're so valuable. We had to flip you. You were the centerpiece of a deal. We think that highly of you. The real awkward part is the Hornets saying, we don't want Mark Williams back. So no, you're lying. Take him.
I was researching it. Like there were questions about his effort a lot though.
Williams?
Right? Yeah. About his effort. So I think look, they're going to be a nightmare. The Lakers are at center, regardless if the trade somehow gets rescinded now again or whatever. But you just needed Luka's very good with a lob threat, and if you have that in Williams,
you can maybe make up for it, but I will mark my words. They're going to be a bad defensive team down the stretch. You saw it in the second game against the Jazz, by the way. Jazz lit them up, had 130 points. We're going up and down the floor. You saw a little bit of that in the second half of the first game they played against Utah because the Jazz lit them up in that second half, able to get over the team total in that one, did it again here in the second one. So that will be something to watch, but maybe we can hit on that a little bit later. So I wanted to hit this with you. I don't know if you saw this, but the anonymous NFL exec poll that ESPN had released, this was right around like Valentine's Day. But coming into the weekend, I thought it was valid because now we're starting to get to, I think next week is Combine Week for the NFL. So we're going to start to get some more draft fervor really picked up. And you had these execs, I think it was 8 of them, polled. Couple of questions in there. The first of which is, will the Titans trade or keep the number 1 pick? 5 votes for trade the pick, 3 votes for keep the pick. And I thought it was interesting because it dovetails nicely with a market that is up over at DraftKings. Team to make the first pick, Titans minus 295, Giants at plus 450, Raiders at 10-1, and then the list goes on. It's an index prop with all of them. But do the Titans make the first overall pick is the place we start here.
I would say no.
Right?
I think there's value in the no there. Because I don't think you use the pick unless you're getting a quarterback that you think is going to be your quarterback for the next 5-10 years.
Right.
And I don't know that they think that, or I don't know that if when you get that quarterback, you can turn it around in 2 years. I mean, like I said about New England, I thought New England was going to trade out of the 4 or whatever it was, 3 last year, because I said, even if whoever they pick is great, they're 2 years away from a roster that can compete. So you're wasting 2 years of the rookie contract. I kind of feel that way about Tennessee as well. And I think they need multiple picks to try to stockpile.
The question then becomes, if we all think that this is a draft that is not worthy of using the first overall pick on a quarterback, who then takes the bait and trades for that pick, right? Who moves up to number 1?
But can you use the number 1 pick on Hunter?
I don't think you can. Like, I think if you're doing Abdul Carter, right? I mean, edge rushers can be impactful.
Yes.
And they can have longevity. You can keep them for a while, and then eventually your organization becomes so toxic that they want to get traded, and you can flip them for massive packages. I.e., we're talking about Myles Garrett here, but I think like that's what you're kind of looking at here. A lot of people, I think, got hung up on who was the Titans. What exec said we're going to take the transcendent talent with the first overall pick,
and that's what
a lot of people
Hunter?
thought. I was like, no, like why? Like that could be Abdul Carter. He could be a transcendent pick.
I actually think Hunter's overrated as a DB.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, if you watch, he made all the splash plays, which is terrific, but he got beat a lot this year. And I'm not saying as a corner you never get beat, but he got beat a lot in these games and playing in that conference. Like that Utah game propelled him to be like minus 2,000. And I thought he had a bad game.
Yeah,
he made some splash plays on offense and he had a pick, but he got beat like 5 times in the game.
I think his versatility, which should be lauded, often people mix that up with how good he actually is at those positions, right? Like I think he's an above average to good corner, and I think he's an above average to potentially good wide receiver. And so people see that and go, man, that versatility is incredible. We got to use, but in the National Football League, you're not going to play both at the same level that you played that in college. So that versility gets knocked down a peg, right? He's not going to be Ohtani, where you're playing both full time. You can't do that with the physicality of the league.
Right. He can't do that to his body because the level of competition is so much higher.
So then the question becomes, are you going to spend the first overall pick on an above average to good corner that might not even be the best overall cornerback in the draft so that you can play, what would you say, 15 snaps on offense?
That's
Maybe
too high.
That's too high. Right. So like that's why I'm kind of pushing back on this premise of what this is going to be with the first overall pick, which leads me back to, again, Abdul Carter. Like I keep going back to that.
What is his price to be number 1?
I'll tell you right now in 2 seconds. I know he's the co-choice there, not the co-choice. Excuse me. He's the second choice because the odds on favor right now is Cam Ward to be the first overall pick right now, which I would not buy too much into at this point right now.
I do think Cam Ward will go before Sanders, and I'm sure you can bet that. I'm sure you can find
Abdul Carter plus 220.
Okay,
yeah, is the first overall pick. Ward minus 140, and then after Abdul Carter, it goes Shedeur Sanders 450, Travis Hunter 5-1, and then you get into who I guess is the best quarterback in this draft, even though he's not going to be the first quarterback taken, maybe is Jackson Dart at 40-1.
Paul always, I brought up Jackson Dart last week and he got all upset. Did you watch the Florida game? Did you? I said, well, I could say that about Cam Ward when he played in the Rose Bowl with Washington State. It's one of the worst games I've ever seen a Division I quarterback have. I got over it.
Yeah.
I thought he was really good at Miami. I think he's more durable. I think he's got a better arm than Sanders. So I just was saying it because I kept hearing all this steam on Dart, and Paul lost his mind when I said it.
I will see. I'm very interested in, like, maybe he does make his way into the first round, but like you said, like everything you keep hearing about Dart, who again is 40-1 to be the first overall pick, I don't think that's going to be the case.
They were also terrible in the red zone. Do you know they were like 105th in red zone efficiency?
Ole Miss,
that can't be Kiffin's play calling.
Sure,
that's got to be on him too.
Right. I would completely agree.
Right.
So I don't know why he came this, like, knock it out of the park, just stash him and develop him draft prospect. And that's apparently what the Raiders are going to do. I mean, everybody keeps saying that, right? You're going to go get somehow Geno Smith's going to become available, and then you're going to go and get Jackson Dart, and then you're going to have a quarterback for the next, like, 20 years.
How plausible is it that Rodgers ends up here?
I think it's very plausible.
I do too.
I think that, especially if you, like, I'm not connected, but like you talk to people who are around the team, and it seems.
I'm just saying
plausible.
Because everything else you just draw a line through, like it doesn't make sense for him.
I think the top two choices would be Rodgers or Mariota. I think Mariota's played with the team. Obviously, he's got a history with the organization. Would be the obvious stopgap. Same thing with Rodgers to come back. If you believe the report that Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if you saw this, pleaded with the Jets to bring him back. That was the quote that was thrown out there. Pleaded with the Jets to bring him back. He clearly still wants to play football. Yeah. Would he be willing to just come here knowing what his fate would ultimately be? Playing for a middling team in the AFC West? Maybe. They would let him do whatever he wanted. They would let him go on McAfee. Right? Talk about mitochondria and do all that kind of stuff. So he'd be able to get his run.
Pizza players coach. Pizza.
Yeah, right.
Right?
He's doing the Gottlieb thing. He's still what is he, like a part-time instructor still at USC or whatever it was. Not to the full extent.
The Gottlieb thing.
Congrats to Doug Gottlieb. We're going to talk about that a little bit later too. Got to win as well over the weekend. Snapped a 21-game losing streak. Really quickly, Stafford potentially on the way out. This is the other fly in the ointment.
I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
Do the Rams want him back?
I don't know.
Paul, I said something about where Stafford, he goes, if he's going to play, he's playing for the Rams. The Rams aren't going to let him go. I said, I don't think so. I don't think I'm misreading this situation.
So when Len Snead was asked about the possibility of trading Stafford, a few weeks, whenever this was, the quote was, quote, next question, it'll take someone calling or us reaching out if we want to do that. So that's like both of those things. Either could happen. Those are things that'll be determined down the road. It's not exactly a ringing endorsement of Stafford's a Lion, no questions asked.
I really believe that Stafford can take a team that's at the level where they might have been a wild card team and take them to the. I still think he's top 5.
I agree.
I ranked him 4th this year in my quarterbacks in the NFL.
I hate this term, but it's totally true for him. So I'll use it. He's a total gamer. The dude, like he was underrated when he was at Detroit, and then he goes to LA. He has been nails the entire time out there.
If they block Jalen Carter when they're at the 20-yard line, they might have been the one in the Super Bowl against. Right? I mean, he takes them down on the last drive. They give up 2 Barkley runs, and then Philadelphia almost won that game.
I mean, if a guy like Stafford is available, if you're a team like San Francisco, you're really thinking hard about what you're doing with Purdy, right?
How many years can you sign Purdy to?
Yeah.
Right?
Or do you go incentive-laden Geno Smith deal and then still go with I don't know. It's just like you're right. A guy like Stafford, if you're a team that feels like you're right there, it becomes very tempting to go and pick up.
Talking about GM polls, in the poll before the year, he was of the GMs the number 1 quarterback in the NFC. They still had Matthew Stafford.
Hey, attention all serious sports bettors. If you're thinking about playing in the 2025 Circa Million or Survivor contest, now is the time to get ahead of the game with Winners, Circle, Proxy, and VSiN. Sign up today for exclusive offers, including a drawing for a free Circa contest entry with Proxy Service. Plus, lock in special pricing on Winners, Circle, Proxy Service for 2025. And as a bonus, you'll get access to expert contest strategies from past winners and VSiN pros. Don't wait. Head to winnerscircleproxy.com/VSiN. That's winnerscircleproxy/VSiN. Speaking of Doug Gottlieb, 1 degree separated from LeBron James. We'll have to hit on that. That was an interesting thing that we saw transpire in the last few hours. And, of course, we can't let the NFL draft go. We'll have more on that in the next hour. Don't go anywhere. It's Follow the Money.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
All right, I'm learning a lot about Mike Palm here as we're spending a little bit more time together. Although I did know, but I did find out for the first time, the last time we did a show together, for some reason it had gone over my head. I thought we only had one Notre Dame alum here at VSIN, Tim Murray. He graduated from there, right?
Yeah.
But no, we have two.
It means more to him. It just means more. It's like the SEC. When
So-
you don't go there, but you've lived your life
Right.
around someone in your family, it means more.
So there was a great joke that it was like, you don't get to, there's like two people that explain to you like their status. It's vegans and Notre Dame fans, right? Because it's, hey, my brother's cousin's father's dominatrix went to Notre Dame and now that's why I'm a really big fan. And I think Tim, I'm going to call Tim out here. I think Tim tries to prove his fandom. The other day, it was probably like months ago actually, he was watching Notre Dame lacrosse on his laptop, and I'm like, there's no way you're that big of a fan of that school. He's, no, I watch
Lacrosse.
Yeah.
I remember the night of the national championship game, he and Humans were doing the show. And he came out, the show ended right as they were throwing the ball to Smith and really ending the game with a long pass. And he came over and sat in pod one and didn't speak. He couldn't muster words. I'm like, man, they played a great game. They came back.
Yeah.
You happy? They're playing on house money. They beat Georgia. They beat these teams that were pick'em games. You have to be happy with the program. Ohio State's much more talented than they are.
Yep.
They could have got beat by 40 in this game if Rebecca doesn't fumble that ball. This was going to be a total blowout. You have to be happy. Couldn't speak. Didn't even respond.
Dejected Tim Murray.
It was almost like he was in disbelief. They lost.
Well, I mean, right. Now, here's the thing. I bring this up purposefully. Right? There is a method to the madness here because, I was watching over the weekend in Notre Dame again in basketball.
I had Louisville yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure. They're awful. The number was only 6.
I mean, you kind of knew Notre Dame was awful when they were 8-point favorites against Miami and lost that game outright a couple weeks ago. You kind of saw the writing on the wall. But, I'm watching, and then afterward, I didn't get to see, we were talking about Nate Oates afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Didn't get to see that. But I did get to see Micah Shrewsbury and head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I kept thinking, this guy, he's talking to Tim. Don't give up on the program. Here's Shrewsbury.
But don't give up on these kids because we're going to get this thing rolling. Because I sat there and watched more Louisville fans in here than Notre Dame people, and that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing for me because I'm the head coach here. And yes, I got us in this predicament. But don't come back when we're losing or when we're winning because we're turning this around, man. You better believe that. Everybody that gave up on me, believe it. Write this date down and believe it because we're going to get this thing rolling. I don't care if you gave up on me.
That is, if you're listening on SiriusXM, that sound was Mike Shrewsbury smacking the mic as he got up, who has 24 wins now to his name, 12 of them in conference. Can you beat, who's he mad at?
The fans, I guess.
But he said there, it's his fault.
There'll be plenty of fans here in about an hour and a half when number 1 Notre Dame women take on 11th ranked Duke in that same building.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot more fans.
That was embarrassed. That, not showing more Louisville fans in your building, that's not embarrassing. It's your coach who now is the head coach of a team who has lost 3 out of 4 games. And as you mentioned, 11-14 on the season. And he's telling you, don't come back when we start winning? Start winning!
JVT, he was 37-31 at Penn State. What did he do to get this job?
I don't know.
He was 7-23 in Big Ten play. What were they looking at?
I don't know. Maybe they liked the cut of his jib. That's pretty much all you got going for you. He's a good guy. He won 23 games one time and was 500 in Big Ten play. That's about it. Not a fan of the way the program's going, huh? But
They could have got Ed Cooley. I firmly believe they could have got Ed Cooley instead of this guy. Wouldn't you rather have Ed Cooley?
Sure.
He's actually done things with Georgetown, which a program that was bereft of talent has come in there and at least been competitive with them.
You and Tim have both told me this. I was surprised by this because, I actually, for some reason, I watched a lot of Mike Breen Notre Dame basketball, like back in the day, whatever. So, I kind of had this thought that this was a program that was much more popular. Mike Bray, excuse me, than what it really was. But apparently this is the thing. I didn't realize it was not a well-supported program.
Even when I went there, you'd pick a few games. You'd pick it based on the opponent, right? You want to go see good teams. But John McLeod was there when I was there. And when I was a freshman and sophomore in Grace Hall, half the basketball team lived on my floor and the dorm, right? So I would go and see them too and support them. But it's not a big deal. It's good to see baseball more than basketball.
Now, this is the common theme here because we see Shrewsbury tell the staff, right, everybody, don't come back when we're winning. We don't want you back. A couple of weeks ago, we had the head coach of the Green Bay Phoenix go on a little bit of rant and say, you're going to owe me an effing apology when I start winning here. Well, it finally happened. Doug Gottlieb snapped his 21-game losing streak the other day with an outright win. Still, though, LeBron James, how about this? You know you're in a position where nobody really enjoys what you're putting out there. When LeBron James is starting to dunk on you, retweets a college basketball report tweeted Doug Gottlieb in Green Bay having not won a basketball game. By the way, bad timing, LeBron. Imagine jumping in, trying to jump on the train of either fading Doug Gottlieb or making fun of him, and then they win the first game that you try to jump on the train, because that's exactly what happened to LeBron James.
And Joe Cirallo. He had plenty of time to think about the tweet yesterday while he was injured and not playing in the All-Star game.
So Gottlieb wins one.
How did the parents not go to the AD and say, get us a coach that's a full-time coach? Seriously, how long? What do you mean when he starts winning? How much rope can he have there?
I think it's John Moon is their AD. Spoke glowing. And look, I mean, what were you going to expect? He hired him. Spoke glowingly about the trip to New Orleans. Said it was good for the program, that he's out there drumming up publicity for the program.
A lot of kids in New Orleans want to go down there. Want to go to Green Bay to play basketball?
Apparently. By the way, do you know
Horizon Dreams?
Do you know why LeBron is going at Gottlieb?
Gottlieb must have said something about him.
In July, I dug down. I went down the rabbit hole. In July, Doug Gottlieb, on his radio show that he works at full time as well, said that Bronny would maybe compete for a starting job on his Green Bay Phoenix team. Didn't think he would start.
He's really ridiculous. I mean, what did he say? We can't get better, beat Michigan Tech by 20, and then they lost to him.
Yeah.
I mean, he just can't do it anymore. This LeBron, I mean, these guys keep a lot of receipts.
Oh,
Your boy Kendrick, Drake, they all keep a lot of receipts.
Yes.
Everybody remembers everything.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead now, and none of them can weave them into an artistic tapestry the way that Kendrick Lamar can.
That was something. There's a lot of subtle messages there. I didn't know Sia dated Drake. I didn't SZA whatever dated Drake. That's something.
What's Serena Williams showing
Serena
up?
Williams made the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard a human being make. She said it was the best 10 seconds of her life.
Okay, that's a little. Well, we could go a lot of directions with that.
Ludicrous. That's ludicrous.
That's kind of it's the dance, just showing up,
the birth
and doing
of her
the
children. How about winning the Serena Slam, all the titles?
Yeah.
How about winning a doubles title with her sister in majors?
Sure.
How about winning double gold in the Olympics at Wimbledon the other time she did the crip walk? Right? I mean, like that was the best 10 seconds of her life.
I mean, I guess if she's specifying it to 10 seconds, she didn't say the best moment, just the best 10 seconds.
It's ludicrous.
I think I can get down with that.
I mean, the Canadians couldn't have had Drake sing the national anthem in Montreal. They couldn't have brought him back from Australia to clap back at USA.
I feel like it's a bigger L if your response to a Super Bowl show is performing, no offense to our neighbors to the north, performing the national anthem in a hockey game.
Big hockey game, though.
Big. It was. All right, hey, G-Bank, real quick, best bets. We'll have our G-Bank best bets as we look ahead. We'll have in-pocket plays a little bit later. But I will go to college hoops here. Did bet Arizona money line against Baylor tonight. I think that's the spot. I don't agree with where the market's at right now. You can get upwards of plus 110 on the Wildcats on the road against Baylor. Baylor center position a little bit thinner. You mentioned this. Even though they've lost 2 straight, very competitive and in position to win the last 2 games for Arizona. In fact, I think you make the argument you blew it against Houston here. But I disagree. I think they're worth the play on the road against the Baylor squad that's been scuffling in their own right. So, yeah, give me Arizona as part of the G-Bank best bets here.
I'm going to take the 2. You get the plus 110, I'll take the 2 in this game.
Yeah. But I think that's the spot here. Hey, folks, G-Bank, it's our bank here at VSiN to make sure you get in on the action. New customers get up to a $750 bonus, $250 if you spend $1,000 in the first 90 days, $500 to spend $50,000 on gaming and sports app loads within 30 days. For more information and terms, go to vsin.com/GBank to apply. Again, vsin.com/GBank. It's G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. What would you say the best 10 seconds of your life are? Specifically 10 seconds.
That's very difficult because I had 2 children born, so that would tie both of them.
Somebody who, we're both fathers. It's 10 seconds for us.
I would say because I kind of assisted with the second one, with the daughter. Helped, yelling to push and hold the legs and all that. The first one, the cord was wrapped around my son's neck, so it was a C-section. So I wasn't, I was through the glass looking.
Yeah, I held a leg and held a hand.
Yeah.
Both times. It was just like, you got this. So I was there. All right, that's like, it was more than 10 seconds, though. It was like 13 hours the first time around. All right, third hour on the way here for Follow the Money. We have two great guests. Nick Alberga is going to join us on the other side, talk a little bit about what this Four Nations face-off is going to be in a championship matchup. We still have one game left, though. A meaningless one, but we still have one game left before the championship later this week. We'll hit all that and more in the third hour of Follow the Money.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.